Now, the story of the art character dolls is that when various German doll firms came to the Munich Art Fair and saw the Marion College and saw people admiring it, they said, okay, this is for us. We're going to get on this wagon. We're going to move in this direction, move away from dolly dolls. Cameron Reinhardt was one of the firms, and there's no denying they made some of the most extraordinary of the art character dolls with painted eyes, very, very realistic features. Their very first model was this little fellow, and he was very popular. He's not uncommon to find today, but what is uncommon is to find one in this large size, because once again, with the large size art character dolls, the way the sculpting can be really enhanced and be brought out is pretty remarkable. I want you to always see the profile of their faces, because on these dolls, it's so wonderful to be able to see the doll all the way around. In particular, you know, when I catalog dolls, sometimes, like on the French dolls, there's so much you can say about them. But when I come to the art character dolls and try to describe them, there's not a lot to say. Sometimes they don't even have painted lashes. Sometimes the brows are just one tapered stroke, because it's all in the modeling and the sculpting. It was so extraordinary that the painting just seemed to fit into it beautifully, and what you would get is this beautiful blush and delicate features, and then the sculpting coming through and really bringing it out, which is why it's so wonderful on a larger model. This is the 100 model, and it's the first of their art character series. Shortly thereafter, they had the 101 and the 114, which were very popular models. And what you seek today to find for really a top collecting are some of the rarer models, which I have here to show you today. And in particular, our two little fellows. We have our large gentleman, who is known as Carl. And what a face, what an exacting face. And again, look at the profile. An older boy, a very, very intelligent child. Turning it around so you can see the way the sculpting is all the way around. And now please look at the profile again. When it comes around this way, I'm going to try to tilt his head up a little so you really can capture the profile. You see how the upper lip comes out? It just almost like a sort of a petulant look, but not really. And look at him. They've made the face more slender. They have like the very pronounced cheekbones, so highly characterized. This is kind of what you're always looking for on these dolls, and this is a wonderful example. His little brother shares the cover of the catalog along with our lady that I love from the first part of the series, the lady with the big nose and big chin. And she shares the cover. He shares the cover with her, because I think, to me, this is, again, one of the most extraordinary dolls from the Welker collection. Number one, it's an extremely, extremely rare model with the sculpted hair, with a painted bisque, and look at his costume. This little fellow came out of the factory years ago, and he went on in a closed cabinet, and he has lived there peacefully, waiting to go to someone else's home, because that costume is so extraordinary, totally original. If somebody can tell me what it says, it looks like it says Franxel, Franxel, I don't know. Maybe the script I'm not reading right, and I don't know what it stands for, but I think he is absolutely wonderful. And please, if the camera has been able to show his face in great detail. I'm going to turn his hair around. Look at that hair. It's not just painted on the head, it's sculpted out from the head to really make it different. Now, Cameron Reinhardt went along and they made another model, and this model is known as Elise. And she's, I think, has, again, one of the older children looks. She's very, very pensive. She's she's like looking into the future, very inquisitive and intelligent look. And it's so difficult to try to describe them because, again, it is all in the sculpting. And look in particular around by her eyes, her mouth. I'm going to turn her to the profile so you can again see her nose. You notice how each one of these noses is totally sculpted differently to achieve the look. Hers is a much softer, little rounded nose. Beautiful bisque. Cameron Reinhardt worked with mostly a very matte finish bisque, almost like a powdery finish bisque. And so that's something that you can really get this beautiful blush on. And what I love about her, of course, is look at that wig. Oh, that is just a dream. To find one of these original mohair wigs that are soft and the original curls like that is absolutely wonderful. Now, Unfortunately, we love the art character dolls today. We seek them, we want them, but there aren't many of them. So partly that is what makes them very, very rare and valuable and pricey, because we want them and there aren't many of them. But the exact opposite thing happened around 1912, because all of a sudden these doll makers said, hey, we're not selling these guys. People don't want them. And they looked around and they said, you know why? Because the children wanted a pretty, playful doll, just like they had had before. Someone that they could have eyes that opened and closed, that would have a pretty smiling face, that would be a dolly doll. And what was left in stock in the warehouses was destroyed. And that's why there are so few of these that can be found today. So here's a couple of the things that happened. I showed you the first doll. One of the things that manufacturers tried to do to capitalize on using the existing molds that they had, even if they couldn't use the existing dolls, is they would do some modifications. And we have our first number, the number 100 mold, and look, Cameron Reinhardt took it and put glass eyes in it and put a wig on it. And it changed the look entirely. And then, I'm going to let him lie down, and then their 114 model, which was Hans, which was really a very popular model, one of the more successful of them. But when that phase passed, they took Hans and they made glass eyes in him. Now, that was a more popular doll, but ironically only for a very, very short time, because it was 1914, 1915, and we know what was going on, World War I. So production on these stopped because they didn't have the American or English markets to fulfill with their dolls, and that ended, and after the war, different things picked up. Here's wonderful googlies. It's googly time, that's fun time, it's smiley time, and this collection from the Welker, from Paige and Billie Welker, what a wonderful group of rare googlies they have. Now I want to tell you a little bit about the background of googly dolls. There's a lot of argument. Did it begin with Palmer Cox when he did his brownies in 1892, his brownie stories, and then the brownie dolls that came out? Or did it begin with Rose O'Neill when she introduced Kewpie about 1908 in ladies' magazines, and then made into the Kewpie dolls, of which this collection has a wonderful family of them of graduated sizes, this being the rare largest size. It was just like the art character dolls in general. One firm started something, other people saw it, it was successful, so they jumped on the bandwagon and made their own variations of whatever the popular trend was at the moment. Nothing new in that happens today, it happened centuries ago. Another popular movement at the doll was the Campbell Kid. And very quickly, companies started to make their variation of the Campbell Kid with the sculpted hair to represent it, the googly eyes, and in this wonderful example, check it out, an extra face. So I honestly wish somebody could tell me how children played with a double-faced doll. I don't understand it, and I guess there's a theory to it, but I don't know. And that's how the doll looks, by the way. It's always interesting in looking at the double-faced dolls to see how they handle the ears. In some cases, you'll see where there will each of them will basically have an ear. There'll be a front and back to an ear flap, so each side will have it. And in this case, they simply made the hair of the sculpted hair girl extend over a little bit so it covered her ear. Very, very interesting technique that they followed. Let's just give her one face for the time being. Now, we have some very rare examples from that collection. And we have here a very popular Hertel and Schwab googly, very beautiful doll, great expression, whimsical, just full of joy, and made here in the rarest large size. But look at his friend. That I've never seen before. That is so different. We have one eye, glass, googly eye, and the other eye, sculpted eye, closed, winking. That is wonderful. So many techniques were used in that 172 and 173 models. Very, very wonderful. Then, if we want to talk about other rarities still, I want you to look at this fellow. He has everything. He's another Blue Ribbon Award winner from the Welker collection. And you do realize it's not a cloth hat, it's a sculpted hat on this little fellow. And tip it down so you can see the top of it. And it extends completely around. And look at his eyes, very, very different. The eye that's wide open still has a sculpted eyelid on it to give it a little extra depth. And so deep, the intaglio sculpting of that is immense. And then the other eye is a little tiny squinting, his winking eye. Really, this guy's got a deal for you, let me tell you. That's what he looks like to me. I got a deal for you. Little tiny nose. Look at his mouth and chin, how different they are. And when he has his little tiny smile, it's pushing his cheeks up to be these wide, bulging cheeks. Never seen this doll. Very, very rare. Truly a worthy award winner. We also have in the collection the wonderful 131 Cameron Reinhardt googly right here with great big eyes. Probably the biggest eyes of any of the googlies from the time period. A wonderful example. And I wanted to show you little Max and Moritz with their sculpted hair, and there also is the Cameron Reinhardt series of Max and Moritz, but I wanted to show you these little tiny examples with very characteristic top knot on Moritz and the little black bobbed hair on Max, inspired by Cats and Jammer Kids, which were in turn inspired by the German children's book by Wilfred Busch of the mid-1800s. Mischievous little, they were brats, there's no word about it, but now we can look on them with whimsy.